Hello and welcome to the Queer Thesperience, passing the mic to LGBT plus entertainers. I am your host, Casper Oliver. My pronouns are he, him. I am a bisexual trans man, and I am a performer of primarily immersion theater, voice acting, film, and stage. And here with me, we have a guest today. Would you please introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, and all that?
Yeah, hi, I'm Matt Pasini. My pronouns are they, them. I identify as a non-binary transmasculine person. And yeah, I'm just queer and here.
Here and queer and ready to party. All right, that doesn't rhyme, but the energy's there. When you reached out to me and kind of showed interest in being on the podcast, as soon as you told me your story as an actor, especially being a non-binary transmasculine actor, I was very interested in having you come on and just share your journey through the acting world. So you mentioned that you've been performing since you were 14. Is that correct?
Yes, which is also around the time I came out originally as a trans man back then, which was interesting because I felt like me coming out as some form of male really clicked and was like, okay, acting. Yes, I am comfortable doing that.
Yeah, and I actually made a joke the last episode with Ashley that all queer people, including trans people, are performers of some kind. Even if you're not on stage or on film, you have to be some form of performative in even just your day-to-day life. So maybe that's why we gravitate towards theater and film, because we've been doing it our entire lives. So where did you start acting?
So originally I had signed up for the preteen/teenager classes at the Barrow Group and fell in love with the film and TV aspect generally. So then I just kept taking more and more and more classes. And then I started doing little theatrical productions in the city, like the non-paid ones. And once I got comfortable with that, that's when I applied for actual paying roles that I saw on Actors Access and stuff like that. And I got my first paid gig, I think when I was 16. Yes, really big paid gig. And that was just working at the New York Haunted Hayride I was essentially just Satan, but they labeled me church demon. I got to be in a cherry picker 40 feet in the air. It was great, though I got stuck sometimes. That was an experience.
I can imagine. I feel like being a scare actor has the most unique experiences, because I when I was a scare actor, some of the weirdest stuff that has ever happened to me as an actor happened when I was a scare actor. I feel like that kind of comes with the territory.
Honestly, yeah. I feel like scare actors just have the best stories of things. And when I was at the New York Haunted Hayride, that's when I met my first manager, because one of my friends on set was like, hey, you have a look that my manager is looking for. Do you want to audition for him? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I went through that. I auditioned. I did the audition process for him, and he was like, absolutely, you have a unique look. And I was like, yes, fantastic. But I didn't tell him I was trans until 2 years into the relationship. So fast forward to those 2 years, because I was friends with him on Facebook, he saw me posting a lot of trans advocacy stuff, and he emails me and he's like, are you trans? And do you want to submit to trans roles? And I was like, sure. Absolutely. And then he was chill with it, and unfortunately that's the manager that ended up passing away, so I had to get new representation. But he was fantastic about being trans throughout the time that he was alive. And then now my current agent, who is also the agent I had to come out as non-binary to, because I originally introduced myself as a trans man to her, was very interesting, because not a lot of people understand they, them pronouns and non-binary. Everybody's just male or female, these are the two genders, blah 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 blah. So originally when I auditioned for her, I was like, how do you feel about trans people? Because I'm not trying to be represented by someone who's like really transphobic or whatever. And she was like, I have a few transgender clients, but like I would love to like meet over lunch and learn about you specifically so I know how to best accommodate you. And I was like, absolutely, I want to be represented by you.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I think like 4-5 months in, I finally got the self-confidence to be like, actually, I'm non-binary, because I had come to the realization like a couple years beforehand, but because I felt really insecure about telling people for fear they wouldn't understand, I was just like, oh yeah, I'm a trans man, even though I'm not. So I sent her this long email and I was like, hey, I really just want to tell you I identify as non-binary. I want you to use they, them pronouns, especially if you're like pitching me to like commercial gigs or like film gigs or whatever. And I want like casting directors to know I'm non-binary instead of just looking at me and being like, oh, you're a trans man. And she emailed me back immediately, like 20 minutes later, and was like, yes, absolutely. Thank you for telling me. I'm not good at using they, them pronouns, but I'm going to like, you know, make that effort. And then asked me like, what type of roles would I be comfortable? Like, do I just want like non-binary roles or like transgender male or whatever? And I was like, anything, like anything. And, she's been such a sweetheart. Like, I can go to her even for like mental health reasons because I had a full-on breakdown. Could not meet the self-tape deadline that I needed to. So I emailed her. I was like, listen, I need to be honest. I'm like dying right now. Having a full mental breakdown, like full panic attack. She's like, don't worry about it. Like asking me what I need support from her. And I was like, I've never had such support in an agent before of representation of anything. I just felt so validated on all levels. It's been amazing.
That's like the dream when it comes to agents. Like, it's not just an agent, but also it sounds like a friend, like a confidant, that's amazing. And I'm really glad that you've had such good support, because you often hear horror stories with agents. And it's so nice to hear that not all agents are transphobic jerks, you know? Yes. And that seems to be just like living proof of that in your experience with these two agents. If you don't mind my asking, so how has being transmasculine, non-binary, because it affects everyone's personal lives a little differently, just very briefly, it seems like it's, for the most part, hasn't had a tremendous weight on your professional career. Has it been as smooth in your personal life as well?
It's weird because like I'm still in a type of mindset where I'm trying, especially in my personal relationships, where I'm like really trying to advocate for myself and be like, no, I use they, them pronouns. Like, I don't just want to let people use he, him and then just let it slide anymore. Of course, like my close friends are like all on board with my they, them pronouns, but more like acquaintances that I meet, especially on set. And it's like, I'm trying to get to that point where I'm like, I have a right to like stand up for my pronouns, which I do. And I feel like, especially I feel like being non-binary, I need to always introduce myself with my pronouns, because otherwise people are just going to have the assumption that I'm male.
Right.
And that on set is either hit or miss, because you'll either have like the especially younger crew members who are like more knowledgeable than like the 60-year-old cis white man director.
Yeah.
That is like, oh yeah, they, them pronouns, absolutely. But like sometimes I've had experiences on set, especially like indie films, where people were just like, yeah, I'll respect your pronouns, then uses he, him like the rest of the day. Or like, even I was on a set, I think like a year and a half ago, where I introduced myself with my pronouns in the email to the director, because he was the one who reached out to me, and the entire time he called me she, her, and I was like, what part of this of my body reads she, her to you? And also like, and towards the end of the day he was like, oh wait, your pronouns are they, them, I'm so sorry. And this is after like an 8-hour shoot, and I'm like, sorry's not gonna cut it, dude. Like,
no, not after that long. That's like 8 levels of bullcrap right there. That is nonsense.
Yeah. I was like, no, absolutely. And then like I have a list of like directors where I'm just like, I don't want to work with anymore. So he was put on that list.
Yeah, that's horrible. Like, just, it's one thing where, there's some pronouns that you're more cozy with than others. Like certain people, like I know certain people prefer they, them, but will be okay with he, him, but don't want to use she, her. And it's like when they go for the jab of using those pronouns, it's like, no, that's just rude. That is disrespectful. And I'm also looking at you right now and listening to you right now. I'm like, what part of you radiates?
Even on the street, I still get misgendered as a girl, and I don't see it. Like, I have, like, when I grow out my facial hair, like, it's very prominent, and I'm just like, there's no reason for you to be like, excuse me, miss, at the supermarket. There's no reason.
It's like, no, thank you. You just look at them in the deepest voice. You go as bass as you can. What?
Like, literally, oh my god.
Like, you go as low as you can.
Yeah.
So, going a little off topic here, mostly because I've had some other people touch on this, and you mentioned this when we were talking. So, like, I'm from Indiana. There's not a huge acting scene where I was from. I was born in a tiny little farm town, which you can tell that comes out sometimes when I'm really angry or really drunk. You can hear the twang. But I now live in Florida, where there is a much larger acting scene. And you're based in New York, but you're not from New York, right?
No, I was born in Venezuela, and I was adopted by Italian people, which is very interesting to just grow up.
Yeah.
Oh, that you're Venezuelan. But I moved to Middle Village, Queens when I was around 3, I think, 2 or 3. And then I just bounced around with Queens, Brooklyn. And then finally, when I moved out of my parents' house, Manhattan life. I currently live in Washington Heights. And that's been my New York experience.
So you've been in New York most of your life?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of looking at New York with rose-tinted glasses. Like, New York is the dream for actors, Yeah. Like, New York or LA is like the dream for actors. Yeah. And I've met some people who have lived in New York, not usually actors though, so they're not there for that dream. But I was just curious, like, what has your experience been like with competition and with the kind of roles you've gotten, especially since you've come out as non-binary and are very open and adamant about people respecting your pronouns and your identity? Have you felt that sway or change your path with getting roles, or is it kind of just been still as steady?
It's weird because, especially in the film and TV world, casting directors have this very specific idea of what transmasculine is. And if you don't meet that requirement, like, they're not going to cast you, which is stupid. Like, from what I gather, the stereotype of transmasculine is going to be, like, not necessarily, like, a hyper-masculine person, but, like, a, like, white, tall, skinny guy who's, like, just, like, oh, yeah, I'm trans, I was born as a girl. Like, that type of bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's weird because if I'm applying for a trans role and then, like, I don't get it, and then I see the material later, it's always that, like, white man stereotype, and it angers me so much because I am a 5'2" Latinx person.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. But I don't think it's changed the pool too much because casting directors know about non-binary, but at the very, 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 like, fundamental level of it, like, it exists to them.
Right.
But I feel like because there's that lack of information, they're just defaulting to trans man for roles, because they don't know what non-binary looks like, which, I mean, non-binary doesn't have a look anyway, so they shouldn't have an idea of what non-binary looks like. Right. And it's both, like, it's weird to navigate because there's always, like, these certain ideas of what people have. And I don't think coming out as non-binary has changed it too much, but it's definitely opened up more conversation about, like, really, like, I've gotten casting directors when I've walked in the room and been like, oh, I'm non-binary, then be like, really? You don't look it? What does that mean? And I'm like, oh boy, this is a conversation we're having.
Like, oh, joy, this is definitely what I was hoping for.
Yup.
Yippee. I had a question. Oh, remembered the question. Okay. So
Yes.
when it comes to the types of roles you play, do you have a favorite type or favorite types of roles to play? And are those things that you are often cast as? Because after your question, I have a follow-up question to that.
Okay. I usually get typecast as like college kid, or especially edgy like artsy kid, with like my piercings and I have stretched ears and everything. So there's just like, you know, emo child, alternative, whoever, which is great, because my scene days are immediately brought back.
Emo's not dead.
But yeah, I'd say those are my favorite types of roles. I also like playing really edgy characters because, like, I played a role where I've murdered someone on screen before. That was really interesting because when you view me in real life, you don't think, oh, this person's a killer.
Right.
So I was like, yes, immediately going on my reel.
Yes, because I feel that because I had a talk with another actor here recently, another transmasculine actor, and we got to talking about how there's this like bar that a lot of transmasculine actors aren't given the chance to play the really cruel, dark, edgy characters because it's like transmasculine is like, oh, they're soft boys, they're good boys, they're precious little sweet boys. And I with the kind of work I do, I do primarily murder mystery parties, like immersive in-person Clue. And because I am either playing victims or murder suspects, I'm usually a jerkbag because there's a reason they died or there's a reason they would likely commit murder. And I didn't realize just how much I like playing the scummiest scum characters until that was ended up being like all I play. And then, you know, you look back on roles that you played ages ago. And before I came out as trans and was presenting very hyper femininely, I only ever played the moms. I literally have played 6 moms. Yeah. In one show, I did one show where I played characters in 3 different scripts for college. All 3 shows, I was the mom.
Oh my god!
All 3 of them. I had 3 different dresses, 3 different scarves, 3 different lipsticks, and I was like, "All right, this is how we're doing it." But I either played the very soft mom or the femme fatale. That was it.
Yeah,
that was it. And now that I've come out and I'm refusing female roles, now that I'm this far in HRT, it would be ludicrous for me to play a female role. It wouldn't work that well. I walk up there at a dress and go, well, hey there, you know, and I would also look very uncomfortable because I would be uncomfortable. Yeah. But I always like to know like people's favorite types of roles. And it's interesting how many queer and trans people are like, let me play the villain, let me play the dirt bag, please, just because it's kind of that indulgence of power. That was how it was put to me, is like just the sense of, at least in that scene, you get to pretend that I have some power over my life right now. Yeah. You know, so I kind of wanted to, especially with the transmasculine curse of being perceived as a high schooler, even if you are in your mid-20s and have been able to legally drink for years, you will be carded over everything. Like, I'm 5'7" and I still have people looking at me going, ID. Like,
oh no,
I'm almost 25, ma'am, I swear. But all right, so before we wrap up, I just want to ask, is if you had someone kind of seated in front of you who is where you were when you were much earlier on in finding yourself and getting into the entertainment industry, what sort of advice would you give to them to try and steer them towards happiness and success? Like, what advice would you give your younger self or someone in your shoes?
definitely that you have worth. Like, don't let anyone take advantage of you, especially on like unpaid shoots. Like, you have the right to stand up for yourself and your pronouns and all that. Like, you're also just allowed to like explore your identity however you want. Like, you don't need to force yourself into any sort of mold to like fit into a role or like make sure that you get cast as some certain type of thing, because like you just have to be yourself. You have to bring yourself to these roles, and you are good enough the way that you are. So yes.
Oh, I love it. And last is, do you have a favorite memory on set, or like a favorite role you've played? Because I always like to, I want to start ending on high notes of saying, okay, tell me like one of your favorite acting stories.
Yes, I can think of one so clearly. So it's the thing that got me my SAG eligibility. I was on Broad City. I was on the episode Abby's Mom. I think it's like season 5, episode 4, something like that. Or maybe season 4, episode 5. I don't remember. One of those. And I was in a scene with Perry Gilpin and, Abby and Alana. And I basically was like, the scene was in a sex shop. I was a goth employee in a sex store. I was decked out. My hair was straightened, floppy. I had my nails painted. They put black lipstick on me. This shoot, by the way, was at 1 a.m.
Oh.
I was so tired. Like, my call time was 11:30 p.m. And I was like, all right. It was in the middle of like Brooklyn somewhere, and along the L train. And I was so tired by the time like makeup called me and hair and everything. And basically my role was to sell this thing called a mom pack to Perry Gilpin, which was basically a box full of sex toys catered to single mothers who like want to have fun. And so we did multiple takes of this, and each and every time Perry Gilpin would turn on the vibrator and just start poking me with it like a sword. And I was like, oh my god, this is a tie, because it was like also the first time that I had been on like a really like big production set like that. So I had no idea what to expect. So I'm here like all stiff and professional, and Perry Gilpin just comes at me with a vibrator. I'm like, yeah, this is fine.
Oh, that's amazing. I always love stories like that when you get to work with like really talented people or just really chill people and just being absolute goofs on set. You know, just absolute goofs. But thank you so much, Matt, for joining me today. Where can our lovely listeners at home or wherever the heck they're listening to this, where can they find you on social media?
I'm most active on Instagram, which is just my name, Matt Pasini Official. And then my Twitter is just Matt Pasini, which I shitpost on Twitter. Like, that's what you're up for if you follow me there.
It's pretty great, though, honestly, as someone who follows their Twitter. I've enjoyed it so far. And on our Twitter and Instagram promo posts for this episode, I will be tagging them, so you can just follow straight through there. If you are listening to this on YouTube, I will put the links to their stuff in the description, and also if the little episode bio, we'll have it there. And also, if you would like to listen to more of the Queer Thesperience, you can find us on Podbean and Spotify at the moment. We will soon also be on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts, I believe. Yes, Apple Podcasts, that's what it is. I know things. That is correct about me. And please be sure to join in for every week. We are going to have new guests coming on and discussing being a part of the LGBT plus community, and as well as being a part of the entertainment world. So this has been your host, Casper Oliver, joined by Matt Pasini.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't forget, all the world's a stage, so give them one hell of a show. Stay safe, much love to you all, and stay beautiful. Bye-bye.